Good. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Season 2, Episode 37 of Motivate Me 313's podcast. We have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about some philanthropy. I'll make sure I say this right, man. I'm Bilal. I mean, maybe you can help me out here before I say that.
Philanthropy.
Yes, there you go. We're going to talk about philanthropy and government. All right, so those are the two topics that we're going to be talking about today. First of all, let me introduce the co-host of this show. You have Sarah T in the building. All right, so shout out to Sarah T, sister Sarah Thabit. And then you got other sister Abir Thabit in the building today. She is here. And then our guest for today is Bilal Hammoud, community activist. You know, always around. Yeah, the crowd is always on point, man. Bilal, I don't know if you picked that up yet or not, but they're going to be on point all day, every day. We appreciate everybody that's watching and tuning in. We appreciate Ramsey, who's also here today.
Thank you, Brother Ramsey.
Doing the ones and twos. So shout out to Ramsey. Looking forward to another great show. Before we talk about anything or get into the topics, got to make sure I tell you guys to subscribe to all of our channels. You have YouTube, Oz Media. You have Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Oz Media. You can listen to the show later on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. And if you want to call in, again, we're going to talk about philanthropy and we're going to talk about government. So anything, and uplifting others too. We're going to be talking about that as well, the importance of uplifting others. So if you want to call in, number is 313-306-1750. Again, 313-306-1750. So feel free to call in and share your thoughts. Got to give a shout out to the sponsors, BC Adhesives, Balkan House, Qahwa House, Hanley International Academy, and Juice Box in Hamtramck. Let's start off with that place that just opened up in Hamtramck. And I seen yesterday, as I was driving by near, on Ford Road, I believe, and they're opening up a new location coming soon. Did you see that, Sada? You're nodding your head. It's over there in that plaza with a lot of other places, like right next door to Sonic and that Tim Hortons down there. So surprising. I mean, I don't know if this is breaking news. They have their logo on there, but they'll definitely be opening up a new location soon, as I've seen. So shout out to Juice Box in Hamtramck. Ramsey, you want to go ahead and run their ad, and we'll get the show on the road.
Juice Box in Hamtramck. Juice Box in Hamtramck is a new business that we've all been waiting for. If you're looking for a place with the best smoothies, milkshakes, ice cream, crepes, cereal bars, and slushies, then Juice Box in Hamtramck is your one-stop shop. You can try things like their Biscoff or Nutella shakes, crepes, watermelon blasts, strawberry burst or mango smoothies, as well as cereal options such as Fruit Loops, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Fruity Pebbles. They even have a comfortable outdoor patio/courtyard area that you and your friends can enjoy while trying those delicious drinks. So be sure to stop by Juice Box in Hamtramck. Location is 11647 Joseph Campo Avenue, and be ready to leave there with a big smile on your face. And if you're on the run, order your drink from their new Juice Box app, downloadable on all of your smartphone devices.
All right. We are officially back, ready to get the show started and get the show on the road. So with that said, shout out to Bilal Hammoud. He is in the building today. He's our guest for today. We appreciate you for coming out here and coming on to the show. So first of all, Bilal, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell the crowd what it is that you do. Everything, by the way. Don't try to miss out as much as you can, because this guy is an awesome individual who always involved in community work. So we appreciate you for all that you do, man. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Bilal Hammoud. My parents immigrated to this country a year before I was born. Born and raised in Dearborn, and I've got my start in this world of organizing and politics in a roundabout way. And just to give you an idea of what that was like, we started off living in Morndale area in Detroit. First couple of years of my life, my house collapsed. Literally, the roof caved in on me and my siblings. So we had to move out. We found a nice place in Dearborn Heights. We've been there ever since. And I grew up going to Dearborn Public Schools, River Oaks Elementary, Bryant, Dearborn High. And the thing I realized in the spaces that I was in was there was a lot of separation. Of course, there's cliques and things like that you see in school, but more than that, the group that hung out here was always a hard line between the group that hung out here, but it wasn't for any good reason. right? You could always see the similarities, the overlap, and you'd know if you just had a gathering one day and brought them together, they'd become friends, everybody.
100%.
And so I found myself wanting to become a bridge pretty early on in life to connect these different groups, these different identities, because it's so important for that collaboration to get things done. And so I went on to college to study public health and neuropsychology. I had done 2 years of research in Parkinson's, and I loved it. If you have any idea of what research is like in the neuroscience field, 90% of the time you're working with lab rats. And so what you're doing is testing the genes in the lab rats to see if early on you can induce Parkinson's, to see if suppressing that gene can suppress the development of Parkinson's. And we did in lab rats. To get from lab rats to human trials, though, that's 15, 20 years. And so if you want to see direct results and you want to see that change, you have to impact things in a different capacity. And I didn't want to wait those 15, 20 years to make my change. And so I shifted more into the policy world through public health. I got a job working in Sheboygan, Michigan, small town in northern Michigan, as their project manager. And this was crazy. I was like 20 years old, and they put me in charge of the city's special projects. But this was a series of opportunities that happened because I didn't say no to opportunities that came my way. Just to be real quick about this, I had joined an a cappella group in college. This was a result of requiring a art credit in high school to graduate. I'd only done research poster design, and so I figured, why not? I join a choir.
Were you any good?
I was a bass.
Like-
We might have to put you in a spot right now, man. Can
Like
we?
Pitch Perfect?
Exactly like Pitch
That's
Perfect.
what I'm thinking in my head, yeah.
That's hilarious.
So my senior year, they sent us to Italy to sing for the Pope at Sunday Mass. And I'm the only Muslim boy in this, symbol of the Catholic and Christian religion. And it was an awe-inspiring opportunity because you don't oftentimes get to appreciate other cultures and spiritual experiences like this. And I fell in love with singing because of that, because I got to share that space. And in college, I continued to do it. I joined an a cappella group, Mellow Detroit, and I fell in love with that artistic space. And even though I was a STEM major and focused on the stuff I was doing in that capacity, I always made sure to be involved in these different groups. Again, trying to make that bridge happen. I was the only STEM major in my choir. I was the only STEM major who ever was president of the men's glee club, but I loved it anyway. And it was through not saying no to that initial opportunity in high school that catapulted, and really just, it was a spiral effect into loving this and doing this kind of stuff in college. And the reason I was able to work in the city of Sheboygan is because we were on a trip to sing at a church in Mackinac Island. And just by chance, the only diner that was open was one that had a Wayne State alum who sat on the board of the city of Sheboygan. One thing led to another, and 2 weeks later, I was interviewing for the position and then living up there for 6 months. So just that spiral of opportunity and not saying no preemptively led to this introduction to civic work, to municipal work, to government. And that's how I got my start initially. I found myself working with MGAGE and MLCV, the Michigan League of Conservation Voters, all these different groups that were dedicated to grassroots activism one way or another, whether it was civically, environmentally, for educators. And I realized that grassroots approach was one that was going to be revolutionary. That was going to be the way that we really got to the nooks and crannies of communities, the WhatsApp group chats, the places that a press release is never going to get to. And I fell in love with that kind of work and did that for a few years until I was brought on by Jocelyn Benson, our Secretary of State here in Michigan, to work in the public engagement department. And that was an opportunity not only because it was a big step up, right? You're stepping up to state government, it's the big leagues, but also because I was the first Arab American to ever be in that executive office, which meant new conversations, new spaces, new opportunities, but challenges along the way. And through that is where I really got my launch into civic life. And I started the kind of march into public service that I'm on today. I was able to work alongside the team and eventually develop the public engagement team alongside my colleagues to do revolutionary work. It was a new department, a new office. So we had kind of free reign to do what we wanted. And we'll dive into the details of this more in a bit as we're talking about philanthropy and government and uplifting communities. But some of that work was instrumental in changing the way policy is done in Michigan, the way language access is done in Michigan, and the way local communities feel empowered by the state and by governments that are supposed to work for them, are supposed to represent them. And so then last year I ran for state representative, seeing an opportunity to represent my home, my hometown where I born and raised, Dearborn Heights, knowing that I could make a difference, knowing that I wanted to be the change, and knowing that this was an opportunity for representative leadership. And although I didn't win the election, I did win a lesson, and I got a lot out of it. I got a lot of support from the community that I appreciated, and that helped push me into the next thing, and some of the projects I'm working on now. And so although you might not always win when you run, it's instrumental to try, to take that chance, to take that leap, because that's how you get your start. That's how you get your name out there. And so we'll talk more about that, inshallah, during this podcast. But that's kind of my background and where I've ended up. I'm now doing a lot of consulting work for different governments and nonprofits, and I try my best to continue to bridge that gap, right, between the different worlds, the different environments, and make sure that the spaces that control power and wealth are still working for those who might not have it, might not have that voice.
And I don't know if you guys can see from home, but this guy's a young fella, especially if you're going to be listening to the show later. Like, I know he just named you off a lot of stuff. I'm just going to say on the top of my head, you're not past 28, that's for sure, right? You're somewhere around that range. So this guy is still young and doing his thing. And I told myself for this show specifically that I was going to start the show from now on differently. And because I was watching somebody else's podcast and they asked their guests a very great question to open up the show. And I didn't do that with you, Bilal, but I'm going to reverse it a little bit.
Let's do it.
This is the first question I'm going to start asking every single guest, and you're the first one, all right?
Love pilot program.
How is your heart? Okay, that is the question. I know. I when she asked that question, and this was like Noor's podcast, Noor Taghuri, the deep question. But I thought about it. I was like, man, you know what? That's a great question to ask somebody because it'll tell you like how they're feeling about the world, everything that's going on. So how is your heart, Bilal, if you don't mind me asking you that question to somewhat start off the show?
So I assume we're not talking about literal.
Yeah.
'Cause I could pull up my cardiologist report right
No, I'm talking about just in general, everything, how do you feel about certain situations and stuff like that?
You know, it's a good question because I think I share the feeling of optimism that a lot of folks might have, but weariness at the same time. I know there's future for our community. I know there's a future for the talent that exists. It's the reason I've stuck around. It's the reason I didn't leave. But I'm also worried about the way power is being handled right now on the national scale. Now, the way that the priorities are being set. And that means that as I'm continuing to develop in my spaces, I don't have that assurance in the back of my mind that, yeah, I can buy a house in 10 years and not worry about it. Yeah, I can invest in a family and not have to worry about it. There are these just fundamental things, this anxiety that I think everyone's feeling, economic and other, that make it difficult to feel comfortable in doing everything you want to do without having that little thing, that little voice in your mind holding you back. So it's optimistic,
but a little weary.
But very weary.
Very weary. There you go. All right. I appreciate you for taking that question like a champ because that was not an easy question and I know it kind of throws you off, right?
I like it. It's
Thank
unique.
You. All right, so
I do want to mention the first ever time we met Bilal.
Yeah.
And it was at the Arab American dinner. It was in the winter. And speaking of like cliques or whatever, not that we wanted to be a clique, but our whole table was Yemeni, you know. And all of a sudden here comes Bilal and just sits at our table and introduces himself and talks to everyone. And I was just like, man, I wish I could be that person that could just sit at any table and just start talking and not feel, But 100%. Like I can see you as being a person that bridges the gap.
And I don't even know if he knew everybody at that table. Like probably knew like one or two people at that table. So
I don't know if I knew anyone at that table.
There you go. Kudos to Bilal, man. That's awesome. And then we then seen him when he was doing his walking and knocking doors and door by door introducing himself.
That takes a lot because a lot of people are rude. A lot of people won't answer you. A lot of people are going to sit there and act like they're listening to you, but they're not. So.
But the 100 people who slam the door in your face, that one that says,
makes you feel
"This is the first time anyone's ever knocked on my door." Yeah. Thank you for listening. Like that appreciation and that connection makes it all worth it.
Absolutely.
So believe it or not, I think the last show that we actually had in here was about representation. And so we kind of touched on different aspects of representation, but we didn't talk about representation in government much, all right? So let's start off with that. Why do you feel it's important to have representation in government?
You know, I think the idea of representation in government and that leadership, oftentimes we hear it a lot. We live in Dearborn, right? A very diverse community. We live in Michigan, a very diverse state. I think that that phrase, representation in leadership in government, is going over people's heads, or it doesn't have the same resonance or impact that it used to. But I cannot stress enough the importance of having someone who looks like you, who sounds like you, or who's looking out for you, leading in positions of power. We talk about power a lot, right? And we oftentimes stray away from the idea of power, especially as Muslimin, as Arab, as those who have been looked at in a negative lens when associated with power. We stray away. We try to be the calm, the in the back. Yeah, we're fine. Yeah, everything's good. But we shouldn't be afraid of power. We shouldn't be afraid of the idea of power, because that's how you influence change. That's how you influence your neighborhood park to be upgraded after 10 years of neglect. That's how you get your community's health to be prioritized. It's through seeking power and leveraging that into representation, into leadership, into policy. So representation in government really means having someone who looks like you, who's willing to create a space at the table for you and make sure that's a permanent fixture, not something that is constantly have to be grabbed at, but an open table with an open seat for you to represent your community and its interests. Because without it, imagine what happens when no one is looking out for you. Just go back 2-3 decades when no one is looking out for your interests, or very few, and no one with actual power. How can your community grow? How can you continue to grow if you're not seeking out that leadership? And that's why when I say everyone should run, I really mean people should take a hard look and decide, is this something I want to try? And not shy away from it. Because you don't have to be political. You don't have to have studied political science to run for office, to take on these leadership roles. You know who I've seen make the best elected officials? Teachers, social workers, people who have hands-on experience with people's concerns, issues, the way they live their lives. Those are the people who oftentimes make the best representatives. So whether it's an identity that you're trying to have represented in government, a profession, or a socioeconomic class, that's something we tend to overlook. It's so important to have that representation in leadership, because they're going to set the policies that dictate your life. They're going to vote on the laws, and they're going to direct funding. That's where the dollars go, is who has representative leadership.
Do y'all want to add on to that? I mean, like, what do you guys think? Like, what do we miss out on, or people miss out on, when they don't have representation in the government?
No, I just wanted to mention Muna Maori trying to get me to go to Ready to Win, the American Leaders.
New American Leaders.
Yeah. And
Jada
I'm like,
Dagger's the
listen, I don't know if this is for me. Like, I don't, it's just not my, for me, I feel like it's 100% important. I 100% agree. We do tend to be the people that like to like just lay low, not stir any problems or whatever, but 100% we do deserve someone in the leadership role in government that knows our needs, interests, wants, and that could represent us well, because we are living here, we are citizens of America and all that good stuff. But it does take someone with
full passion,
yeah,
and want to dedicate into that, because it's not an easy job.
Yeah, but
So I get it.
What's the stem of your passion? What are you passionate about?
Are you putting me on
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot.
Shopping.
No, I'm passionate. I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about. Let's see.
Cats.
You want to think while I...
Thanks. Yeah, go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
For me, it's education and inclusion, for sure.
So you need to have passion to run for office. Does any office or anything in elected, do policies ever affect education?
100%.
Do laws
all of
affect
them.
education?
For me, I would rather be within the school.
And you can, still in leadership. It doesn't have to be running for office, but it can be strategic leadership, whether it's something like the PTO, the Parent Teacher Association, PTA, or something as high as school board.
Oh, 100%. That definitely leadership in that aspect for sure. But I'm talking about government. Like that's something that I wouldn't probably touch on as much.
That's all government. I mean, government is a ruling body, right? The school board is a ruling body over the school. It dictates funding. It dictates how the classes are run. So taking a step back and looking at power and government and leadership, it is so important to know that it's not just the bureaucracy of City Hall that you think it's not just the legislator that seems like an anomaly over in Lansing. It is so much more than that. And New American Leaders, just giving them a shout out, is a great way to introduce first and second generation immigrants to that leadership space. It doesn't mean you have to run. It doesn't mean you have to be seeking that title or the limelight. You could be seeking to support others and uplift others, right? Making sure that people who look like you get in that space, people you believe in, are able to enter that space. Or it could be just expanding your network. That interconnectedness is so much more valuable than people give it credit for. If you have a network of people that you know, oh, this person does podcasts and media. Oh, Ramsey over here, you know what he does? He does basketball. He does media production, does all this. You can start plugging in people into different spaces and giving them the opportunity. When a government official is looking for a video to be produced on a new public health initiative or a new tax incentive, you could say, oh, I know this person. They're in touch with the community. They have high production value. They care. And they'll be tapped in. And now they'll be known as a staple. And they'll be known as someone they can refer to. And once you crack that mystery that government has, there really is this mysterious guise over the top of everything. But once you crack it, then you're like, oh, this is just like my backyard. This is something that I can be comfortable with. You can be confident in. And then you can start letting other folks in.
No, I love that, Ramsey. I want to give that a round of applause, by the way. Bilal is spitting facts. I still want to know what Sada's passionate about.
Say
I'm
doubt
still-
Yeah, I
kills
know, right?
more
Yeah,
dreams.
You're
yeah.
getting off the hook.
Well,
Yeah.
you can't just like. I mean, like I could name you multiple things, like
You know what I
just in
think that you're
general-
passionate about?
What?
Self-care.
So I was gonna say emotional
Okay.
well-being.
There you go.
That's so important.
That's one of my main things. And like obviously I really love it, like mental health in general, and even that includes like cats' mental health. And cooking, I'm really passionate about cooking as well.
So what I'm hearing is you want to influence nutrition policy, making sure people are getting what they want in
I
their
love how
diet.
he like
Yeah.
connects.
He has all the categories.
Wait,
Ready
what's
to
your
go.
category for cats?
But what do you mean by my category for cat?
I don't know. You have a category for everything.
Do you have
Animal.
a way you can influence policy for animals?
Wildlife preservation.
There you go. Wildlife preservation. All right. So you kind of were talking about this, about the importance of bridging the gap between the government and the people that they serve. Okay. So can you dive in a little bit more about that? Like, why is that important? Why is it important to, bridge that gap between the government and the people they serve and, keeping them connected?
Yeah. So think about the resources that exist. When my parents came to this country, they had nothing. They had no institutional knowledge, no generational knowledge, no generational wealth. So they had what they had on their backs, right? Classic immigrant story. But that means when your house roof collapses, you don't know what programs that you can apply for through FEMA, through different incentives, through county incentives, tax incentives that are going to help you save costs, rebuild. Insurance. Insurance is confusing to me, and I've been in this country my whole life. I used to help people connect with insurance providers. It is still an anomaly.
Absolutely.
It's intentionally that way, sure, but being able to know the resources that exist out there is just the first step. When I was in elementary school, I'll never forget this, because me and my 3 younger sisters, we found the Caroline Kennedy Library in Dearborn Heights. We found it as this beautiful place. My mom started dropping us off there after school. It was a way to get involved, stay educated, look for new opportunities. And we found out that the library was offering free museum passes. Anyone could go and take these free museum passes and go to the Arab American Museum, the Henry Ford Museum, the Rouge Plant. And museums are the gateway to knowledge. If you want to see opportunity spark in a kid's eyes, you send them to a museum. And so when we talk about just knowing that program existed, the moment we found out, we're there every week. Every weekend we have a trip to a different museum, learning something new. And that's life-changing for me. To this day, I love museums. I love the diversity of knowledge I gain through museums. And that's just an example of how connecting resources that exist to people, just the existing stuff, not creating new programs, not creating new resources, just the connection of what's already out there is so fundamentally important. And that begins for a lot of non-traditional communities or marginalized groups through language access, right? If you don't even speak the language, how are you going to get those resources? And so being intentional about that outreach, I've seen organizations put out press releases and then they're like, oh, we want to make sure this gets to all the communities. Let's translate this into Arabic. Have you ever seen an Arabic press release? Has that gotten into your mom's WhatsApp group chat?
Mm-hmm.
Never. That's not what's going to get forwarded in those chats. That's not what's going to get into the eyes of the folks who need it. So finding ways to be strategic about getting those resources and that information down to people That's our responsibility. And so the importance of that, again, can't be understated. We're talking about getting tax incentive programs through the county to individual families. If you think of a family who doesn't have enough just for food, those basic resources, the food distribution programs that exist, if you wanted to, there's a food distribution for every day of the week. There's a way you can get groceries on the table for your family. But finding out about that, knowing these programs exist, now in an interconnected world that we have now through the internet, there's more opportunities for that. But before, especially, no one knew. There was no real way of finding out unless you saw a flyer randomly by chance. And so being intentional with the tools we have at our disposal is so important.
No, I love that. You want to say anything about that?
No, like growing up, for sure. I know this is kind of like a piggyback off of the question, but growing up, like, we never saw anybody like us in government. But now I feel like it definitely feels like we actually can speak like one-on-one with someone that's actually in a place of power. And like offering situations like, for instance, Hanley allowing the 8th graders to go to DC. That was huge. Seeing all the museums, like seeing it in real life, seeing history in your eyes in front of you is totally different.
Yeah.
I remember I went back with the school in 2016, and then I went again this year with my son's class, and huge difference. Obviously the monuments are the same, but the people that you see in the Capitol building, they look a lot more diverse. Like, it's crazy what a couple years can do.
Yeah.
So just it's very, very important that we have that connection.
Yeah.
From youth to and on.
Even if it's just like, they might not even be Arab or Muslim and they have a name that's like Mona or Khalid, like that pops, a little trigger in your brain, like, oh my God, like they have even the names, or like even a name that's like that we're used to and stuff like that, could really just make a difference.
Yeah, that demystification, just from something that you can identify with.
Yeah.
It's funny because we talk about government and having people that look like us, sound like us, or represent us, but just the idea that someone who could be like me or knows about me is there or is looking out for me. I knew some legislators who used to open up their offices for prayer. They didn't pray, they weren't Muslim, but they would open it up for the Muslim legislators or staffers to come in and pray. That is a space that is collaborative. That is a space that shares opportunity. And that means that the people who want to feel included can. Yeah. Whether it's the people who need the resources and the immigrant families who see something in their language, or someone who's a first and a half, second generation looking to get more involved. Now they have the foundation that their ancestors and their parents and their grandparents built. Now they want to take that next step. This is the only way to it. And so it's been cool to see the change. I was just in DC a few days ago, and yeah, it's very different when I was a kid.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like that the government and the people, it's important for them to be sticking together. Just like BC Adhesives is a gluing company, which also helps people stick together as well.
Oh
Ramsey, can you go ahead and run the BC Adhesives ad before you go ahead? Shout out to BC Adhesives, the right business.
Clean transition.
Yes, shout out to BC Adhesives.
BC Adhesives. You can go to BC Adhesives for all your industrial adhesives needs. They do food packaging, bookbinding, product assembly, and many other industrial services. So if you are in need of adhesives for your business or having trouble with your current adhesives applications, you can contact them by phone 1-888-679-9825 or go on their website www.bcadhesives.com.
All right, so Bilal is over here spitting facts right now. Appreciate him for coming on here and sharing his knowledge with us and anybody out there that's listening as well. So now we're going to talk about philanthropy work and the importance of it. I'm glad that you're going to touch on this subject because I feel like a lot of people don't understand what it is, first of all, and then number two, the importance of it and how it can shape future lives and the future that we are trying to build. So can you start off by telling us why is it important to push philanthropy work to people?
What is philanthropy? It is filling the gap where government doesn't. And guess what? The government be slacking.
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about why it's so important, I mean, every public incentive program, every initiative that you think needs to happen, every food distribution, all these different resources that exist, come from philanthropy. They come from nonprofits. They come from spaces that are looking to help out others. And isn't that what we're taught? To help those less fortunate, even help those who are more fortunate. You are not one to judge who and what fortune is. You just want to help others. And that's what we're taught from when we're young.
It's our duty, you know?
Yeah, through our culture, through our religion, through so many different spaces, we're taught to help out. And that's what philanthropy takes the form of, is how to do that in an institutional way. How to make sure that whether you're the one donating because you've built yourself up financially and now you want to give back and strategically allocating those funds, or just offering your time. It's more than just the signal of you wanting to help out and showing. There's value in that. Just showing up, there's so much value in just being present. But it goes beyond that, because that help that you can provide can go a long way for supporting a family. It takes 6 people to run a smooth food distribution, but that helps hundreds of families. It feeds hundreds of families. So if we're talking about the importance of philanthropy, it can take on so many different forms, but getting involved in any capacity as a volunteer, no matter where you're at in your professional development, right? You're never too good to volunteer for something. It's good early on. Everyone tells you get your hours in. It makes you look active. It helps you with your college applications. But the reason why you should be doing it is because it plugs you into spaces, it builds your network, and you're helping out. And there's never an opportunity. We're never going to be in a space in the next couple of years where the help isn't needed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be room for us to help out.
What do you guys think about philanthropy work? Sada, you want to start off with you maybe? Like, what are your thoughts on it? And do you see yourself in the future maybe joining a nonprofit organization to...
Well, technically, I work for
Oh, yeah.
a nonprofit.
Access.
I work for Access. So
Oh, there you go.
yeah, so I see the amazing work that they do, and it's inspiring, and that's what made me want to get into it. I love that we are, state funded, and I love that when, the state will obviously come and check up on us and make sure we're doing a good job, and we are doing a good job. So it's great. Do I see myself like getting into like hands-on? Of course, I'm always doing volunteer work for Access for my job. I'm always hands-on with the community.
Yeah, when you work for an organization that's a nonprofit,
Yeah.
if you did that same work in a corporate space, you probably would be making 20 to 50% more in your salary.
Yeah.
But you're choosing to enter that space because you know you can give back in that way.
How about you, Abed? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's literally the most important thing. The way that I grew up, just always constantly being the one to help. It's that big sister. You know what I'm saying? It's that big sister effect that I would love to. I still continue to this day. Whether it's something small or something big, I think is very important. Anyone can help, whether they're sharing their expertise, their education. Like there's help that's needed everywhere. It doesn't matter whether you're serving out food or you're, like what I was saying, donating money, time, your effort. It's needed. It's 100%. Like, and I really do want to join or even start our own nonprofit in the future for sure, because I feel like there's never enough, and there's always. I just want to know in what aspect. That's the only thing. Like what?
Yeah.
Abed, if I'm correct, would love to have a career in philanthropy.
Yes, I would literally. I would love to like travel the world and help the needy, and that would be my job. Like that's what I want. But unfortunately, you got to pay the bills.
Hey, fortunately, you don't have to travel the world to help the needy. There's plenty needy
There you go. Exactly.
There you go. So for those that are at home, are like, okay, how can I join, or what are some things that I can do to maybe start? Like what kind of advice do you want to give them in ways that they can help out and maybe join other organizations?
So being in Dearborn, right? If we're talking about Dearborn area, Southeast Michigan, we're lucky to be in a community with such a rich tapestry of diverse backgrounds, right? Not just Arab and non-Arab. I'm talking within the Arab community. I'm talking within the Spanish community, the Mexican community, the Polish community. There's so many historic communities that have roots here. And that collaboration, that overlap between us is fundamental to why we are here today. So I want folks to take a step back and look at the bridges we built, look at the shared goals that we have with these different spaces, and being willing to collaborate, right? It might not always be, I want to start a nonprofit of my own. It's, this nonprofit's doing work I support. Let me help them. Let me collaborate with them. Access, right? They're a pillar of this community. When we talk about being able to start volunteering, they have that pathway. They have that streamlined space to get involved. They're so big that they're able to offer those institutional platforms to bring people in and start that stuff off early on in a child's life or in an adult's life. There's always space for it. And so when we talk about us, right, dedicated professionals in our own careers, in our own spaces, it's so important to still recognize the amount of value we can put in. So finding those opportunities, just go to a community event, something going on in the area, and just be present. Talk to two people, sit at a table where you don't know anybody. The amount of value you'll get out of that, you'd be shocked.
Next thing you know, you'd be on a podcast show with those
That's
same
right.
people. You know what I mean?
All it takes is being being willing to put yourself out there a little, having a dialogue, even if it doesn't pay off immediately, even if it never pays off. You'd be surprised the value you can bring to your life, and it could be 5 years down the line. But that small investment of time will pay off in dividends, I guarantee, because that's either going to be a friend for the future, a resource you can lean on, or someone you're going to run into spaces where you want somebody who you recognize you can share that comfort with. Because if you run into that person 5 years later in DC, you're like, all right, now I can be confident. I know someone here. They share my background. We've connected before. Now there's value there.
No, I agree 100%, man. And I know you said that there's a benefit for like you, the person. You don't know how you might even benefit the people that you were talking to, you know, like you may have inspired them. And I know our next question is about uplifting them, you know, and for somebody like you who is very, you know, outgoing and honestly, you are a person that uplifts others, you know, that could be also something as well. You had something to add on?
No, I feel like even with As Media and you putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
I feel like you've grown your network as well through that process.
That's right.
I didn't even give him the
Proud
thumbs
of
up for that
Reese.
one.
Proud
I
of
didn't give him
Reese.
thumbs up. But yeah, man, honestly, I agree with everything that was just said with everybody. But you know, you never know the impact you have on others, though. Like seriously, like just having a small conversation with somebody,
Yeah.
and you know, putting a smile on their face. They may have been going through a tough day, a long day. You know, then you, like you said, you meet people at this event and you sit down at a table. You might not know everyone, but the next thing you know, you left there with an impact on somebody, and you left a mark on someone, and you never know down the line where how that can come back and you know, full circle and positively affect, you know, you and your life.
Yeah, let's not understate Oz Media, right? The amount of connections you're building, not just for yourself, but truly, you enter a space, you work up that room. It's not for you. It's not for your brand. You're uplifting others. You're plugging in names you know into that space. You're trying to build something here. More than just a platform to share opinions. So much more than that. It's a tapestry that interweaves, right? And it's not just Dearborn, right? We're not just having conversations with people in Dearborn. We're having conversations with everybody across different sectors and different fields. And that's so important that we're getting involved in the rich tapestry, not getting trapped in this bubble. It's really easy to be comfortable in Dearborn, to stay in Dearborn, and to not feel the pressure of the outside world. But the moment you do crack that bubble, you're now weaving yourself into different fabrics of society. And now there are Arab filmmakers. There are Muslim content creators. This is something that foreign concept, unheard of 2 decades ago, a decade ago. So we're building upon that. We're building. And it's the best thing. I really do appreciate what you're doing out here. I recognize it.
And Bilal, I appreciate you, man. Bilal is a guy we've actually been working on to come on the show. I don't know for how long now. It's been
Man,
a
it's been
lot.
like at least since it started, right?
Yeah, so it's been a lot, but so that's why we're glad to actually have him here. And so we're talking about uplifting others. So how can people uplift others rather than themselves or the people who are within their circle? So you talk about, you know, getting out of your comfort zone, right? Like, I don't want to say it's easy to uplift the people that are in your circle, but it's not as hard as uplifting people who are maybe not from, you know, your background or your culture or the same, you know, crew that you hang out with. So, you know, how can people do that?
Imagine, I'll start off by being a little critical, right? I think oftentimes we think of uplifting and it's bringing people up to here, right? Right at our hip. Nothing more though. We're willing to bring people up to enough to where they feel indebted to you, they want to support you, but they're not more powerful than you. And I got to tell you, the spaces I've seen cannibalize themselves. As soon as they achieve their first victory over that power is the reason why those communities can never grow. And so when we talk about uplifting, it's more than just taking them to here. It's taking them to here and beyond. It's taking them to a space that's never existed before. It's using the foundation that's been laid before you to catapult into greater opportunities. And when we take each other down or only allow so much so that we can hold on to that kingmaker status or title, we never can grow. And I think that's something we've seen in our own community, that cannibalization. There's these 30-year-old grudges that exist that hold us back. And so oftentimes the status of our, not only politics, but everything is dictated by those select few. And that's not healthy. You need leaders, again, across a rich tapestry in different spaces who are willing to uplift, because the value of putting someone that you might not know fully or someone that you believe in their future potential in a space where they could grow above you means that favor could be returned.
Yep.
Or that favor is going to support others in your community. And there's going to be more opportunities to bring folks in who are going to support. I can't tell you how many times, and it really is frustrating, I've seen that pull down, that tear down. And the moment I ran for office, I felt it. I felt it from almost every angle. You know what it's like to be criticized productively, and you know what it's like to be brought down intentionally. Those are very different things. So when we seek to put those that look like us and sound like this in positions that are above us, then we need to know that they're the person that's right for it. And so we should always be critical, especially of our own, because if that person messes up, it looks bad for the rest of us, and we're never going to be able to get there. It's going to take a long time to get back.
Mm-hmm.
But being critical and being supportive is very different. That constructive side is very different than tearing down intentionally, so that only the people that you know directly, only the people who are loyal in that channel are going to be supporting you. And I got to tell you, in a space, in a bubble like Dearborn, we see a lot of that. And again, I'm being critical here, but it's because of something I've seen over and over again, a repetitious, vicious cycle that has kept us from growing to where we could be. Alhamdulillah, we got a mayor that looks like us and sounds like us and is looking out for us. And I think Abdullah's doing a great job.
Yeah.
But that was a hard-fought battle, right? And those types of victories, they may calm us down, make us feel good for a while, but we can't stop there.
Yeah.
We can't think that's, all right, we've done our part, we're done, khalas.
Yeah.
There is so much more opportunity to get involved. There's so much more need. There's a million positions out there. Things like board members, commission members, different spaces in which you can take on that leadership. It doesn't have to be the top title, but to take that leadership that you've gained and put people in those spaces, it's the reason I'm here, right? It's the reason I've had opportunities, because someone thought, hey, this guy's ambitious. He's looking for a way to get involved. Let me plug him in here. And I grow, and I can support back. And then we can share those resources and collaborate. But I do want to see so much better. And that's why I talk about I'm optimistic, but I'm weary. Because I see the things holding back. And I really want to support the initiatives and individuals who are truly looking out for others and uplift those and put them in spaces where they can continue to grow.
I want to ask, and because these are people like in leadership positions, I'm assuming that you're talking about that are, maybe uplift you to, like you said, like about here, but they don't want to, lift you up higher, or just people that are community leaders. Because I've seen it with my own two eyes as well, and you kind of see it, and like just being, around, and not just in Dearborn, really, it's almost everywhere, to be honest with you. So it's like, why do you think that's the case? Why, maybe it's an older generation person, or maybe even people around our age, or whoever it may be. Why do you guys feel like they're just like, hey, yeah, we'll lift you up, but we're gonna keep you right here, nothing too high. What are your thoughts, Abid?
I just want to kind of add on to what Bilal was saying. Sometimes it's people that you don't know that are more supportive than people that you do know. I've seen that firsthand, being a business owner on the side or whatever. But at the same time, it's people are selfish. People are not genuine. I feel like, that could only be the answer. But for me to be the devil's advocate or whatever, if you're genuine, you're working on whatever you're working on 100%, you don't need those people. Because the right people will come and support you and help you.
Yeah, people are just probably afraid of others or younger people, especially like taking their jobs or taking their part or taking whatever they took probably 15 years, to get done, and then like someone getting it in like 7 months, you know? So that might be hurtful to them, or I don't know. Like I said, jealousy and
No, I want to. You're right, 100%. Because a lot of the times, you know, the whole generational, the difference between the generations. Like a lot of the times, the older generation feel like the younger generation they have it easy, or it's easier for them to, or they have to work harder, or whatever. So they do kind of get like, okay, well, you're not ready. This is our turn. Or wait, your turn.
yeah.
Like, this is our turn right now. You're still too young, or you're still. I don't know.
Or even about like pay, because like now starting pay will be probably someone that worked there for 9 years that they had to, you know, get, you know, like I know some sorry,
You're good.
some certain, you know, jobs like they start like someone will come in, and if it's like for therapy, they'll go in and they'll get the same amount as someone that's been working for
Even
long,
with education.
and that is hurtful for some. But yeah, we're living a different time, different living. Like it's I get it, but at the same time, like what's yours is meant for you.
But it's so important that we don't put that on each other, right? Because
Yeah.
who's controlling the salaries? Who's not adequately raising the employee's salary? Who's been there and put in that loyalty?
Yeah,
It's the company.
yeah.
It's the organization.
Right.
So we shouldn't be criticizing each other because, you know, someone above is choosing and dictating how that is.
Yeah,
So-
don't hate the player, hate the game type of thing, right?
But I think we ought to recognize the work that the older generation, or just generations that come before us, put in to give us the opportunity to make things easier for us, right? This wouldn't be possible without the hard-fought battles that were done before. But the value in passing on that torch, stepping aside and uplifting and giving that space for the next, for the new, is one that other communities have mastered and continue to do, and one that I think the reason why I'm optimistic is because I'm seeing more of that.
Yep.
I'm seeing more of that, and I love to see it. I love to support it.
Guys, if we want to grow, it's not guys, I mean just in general, the community, like if we want to grow, this is what we have to do. First of all, younger generation, they need to give more respect to the people who have done it before them. You know, that's one of the big problems that the older generations feel like, is because, you know, they're like, hey, who are these young folks thinking they could just come here and just like take over and then like not show their respects at least. And that's one of the issues. But the older generation, you gotta let go. You gotta let. This is literally what you've been doing your whole life. Like, you know, when you talk to these people, we care about the youth. We want to build up the youth. All right, well, now it's time. You know, now it's time to, instead of doing the talking, do the walking. So it's like, when you ask what's passionate about, like, this is what I'm passionate about. It's like building the gap between those kind of generations, because I feel like there's like a big gap there. And
Misunderstanding
yeah, a lot
between
of
them.
misunderstanding. And, you know, believe it or not, you know, talk more and more to the younger generation, man. It's like, I know their actions might not always follow it, but they know what's right.
Yeah.
And they know what needs to be done. I don't know if they're doing what they need to do to get there, but they at least know, which I think is the first basic step, right?
I think one thing I've seen in a lot of the new generation, I mean, I'm talking new, like much younger than me, who are getting their start in things, they're good at communicating. They're getting a lot better at communicating their thoughts. And they may say it in a way that's passionate or very emotionally driven, but they're able to communicate. And that idea of diplomacy, being able to say why you're upset. So those 30-year-old grudges don't start. They don't start and then stay that way because you don't want to have that conversation. Oh, they need to reach out to me. No, they need to reach out to me.
Yeah.
That idea, that pride, that ego holds back so much. It holds back the growth of both parties. And so being able to extend that branch and say, listen, there was a misunderstanding. I want to have a conversation about this. Bithel, it really does, like, it takes anxiety out of things. It shows humility. And so when we talk about seeking power and seeking that leverage, it doesn't mean don't be humble. It doesn't mean show humility and being willing to admit fault. It means use the power, use the leverage to support and grow, and use it to also build those bridges. Don't use it to divide. Don't use it to build a staircase that's only for one. Use it to build an elevator that can lift everybody up together. So
Go ahead and give that a round of applause too. Shout out to you, man. Bilal spitting the facts right here, man. I appreciate you, man. And so, you know, if y'all haven't heard yet, I mean, you know, just gotta rewind the tape. You know, Bilal does a lot, mashallah, Allahumma barik, with a lot of the community. So, what are some future plans, you know, and projects you have, and how can people help? And, you know, tell us what, you know, what you got in mind, what you got in store, maybe in the next few years, inshallah.
yeah, so following the campaign, I've been doing a lot of philanthropy work. I sit on the board of a couple different nonprofits, so that's always a good way to get involved. Start as a volunteer, Eventually, you can join the board and support in so many different ways. For me, I run a nonprofit. It's called Don't Be Shy. The idea being we want to offer a co-working space, a community space for those young entrepreneurs, those young individuals who want to get involved, who want to step into that leadership role to start. So whether it's a small business, small nonprofit, we'll give them the tools to do so. And we did it here in our backyard, right here in Dearborn Heights. And so the idea that we're supporting those youth, one of the groups that we sponsor is the Model United Nations Club. And so we got to take a group of 25 students across the country to do different conferences so that they can not only engage in that international discussion and understand diplomacy to the national and international level and then bring that back home, but also the idea that they should be able to seek out these new opportunities that might not exist, because the reason that club was formed to begin with was because, and no fault necessarily to the school, there was no teachers with the capacity to take on an advisory role. There was nobody. I mean, they already were handling 1-2 clubs each, which, mind you, they don't get paid for. They do that out of the kindness of their heart, and then they support. So they're already being stretched out with salaries that don't match the work that they do. And so the students were looking for that, and there wasn't. And so we developed this Dearborn Heights Model United Nations, really tried to build it together. And now it's got 40 members. We try to travel as much as we can. Most recently, we went to Harvard. And we got to watch them take home like 13 awards. So to see that of people that, I remember I was in Model United Nations when I was a kid, and to see this like next generation, it's like, wow, they're killing it. They're doing great stuff. They're able to communicate and build those policies and build those bridges. And that network that they connect with, the 4,000 students that attended, inshallah, that'll help them out in the future. And they're able to connect with those people again and find those opportunities and not feel intimidated by Harvard, right? Demystify the campus and the experience, and now know, the Ivy League, very attainable.
Is it just is this for high school students?
High school students in Dearborn and Dearborn Heights. Reach out to me, Ramzi. We'll be in touch.
No, that's something that I love my son to death, and I am so proud of him in every aspect. Like, he's, honor roll, sports, everything. But I do want him to not be shy, because he is very, very shy. I just want him to be able to,
She be putting on the spot though every single time. I be feeling like he's shy because
him on the spot. Like I want him
There's nothing wrong with that.
Like, listen, like I want what for him, everything that I didn't have and more. You know what I'm saying? So that I never even knew something like that existed. So
yeah, he's a good kid, man.
That's like a mom right there.
Yeah, he's a good kid, and he just he's just respectful and sometimes just quiet. Definitely can speak more, but once you start talking to him, he'll talk eventually. But yeah, definitely that sounds like something that every younger teenage high school student should definitely look into, man. It's awesome that you do that.
And that's my way of.
I love you.
Don't be shy, right? That's the name of the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Like
there
that.
you go.
Shy like the cup, SHAI.
Oh, is it really?
It's
That's hilarious. You guys get free shahi from
We do.
local. There you go.
Exactly.
Makes sense, man. Makes sense. Well,
So
go ahead. What you about to say?
wait, I think you had a little mix that you're about to do.
No, not yet.
okay.
Not yet.
you guys.
No, we got Kahwa House, but I was gonna give a shout out to Hanley. I haven't given a shout out to Hanley. But did you finish? I don't know if you had something else you wanted to add on.
I was just gonna say that that's my way of filling my cup, and that's something that is philanthropy that fills me in here in my soul, because I see that growth. And you love it. You love to see that ambition, that drive, and so you got to make sure to find that balance where you fill your cup here, and you're able to also pay your bills, right? And so finding that balance through the work that I do now is a way that I've been able to enjoy the space that I built and the network that I built out. And so I'll be traveling, doing a lot of public speaking events and trying to get involved in these different communities and make sure that, Dearborn's always on the forefront, right? I went over to LA. I just flew in 2 days ago. And the one thing I kept telling people was, come to Dearborn, come visit Dearborn. You'll have an experience that you won't forget, and they'll take that back, and they'll be able to carry that and spread that message all the way on the other coast. So trying to find my ways to still bridge that gap and connect communities is what I've been up to.
I love it. Bilal, man. We're proud of you, man, and everything that you're doing. A young man who is making moves, mashallah. We're going to go ahead and give a shout out to, I'm going to say this. You're schooling people, right? There you go. Schooling people on everything that you're doing. So we're going to give a shout out to Hanley International Academy.
Oh, I just got
Yeah. All right. Shout out to Hanley International Academy. We appreciate them. the school that Ramsey got promoted from middle school to high school. So shout out to Hanley. Run that ad, and then we will, believe it or not, we're reaching the end where we're going to need a quote from you, all right, that we're going to be taking away. So shout out to Hanley.
Hanley International Academy. Hanley is a school that treats every student and staff like their own family. It's even in their vision statement, educating your child like our own. Did you also know that Hanley offers a virtual academy? So if you're looking for your kid to sign up for an online school, look no further than Hanley's Virtual Academy. But if you're looking for face-to-face, Hanley International Academy is located on 2400 Denton Street, Hamtramck, Michigan. The athletics there are great. The academics there are great. Shout out to the whole staff for being great teachers and educators for our leaders of tomorrow.
All right. So again, shout out to Hanley International Academy, and shout out to Bilal for all the great advice and educating us all on what it is that's been going on. And
Thank you for having
we
me. brother.
appreciate you.
Appreciate
So
it.
now
Thank you,
comes the Motivate Me 313 minute. All right. This is the part where we,
Okay.
ask you a question. We'd like to pull this clip out, so that people can, watch the show either later or whenever they have the time. So basically the question is advice for anyone who wants to take part in government or philanthropy work, but are afraid to take that next step. And if you want to go ahead and hold on one second, let me make sure I got that ready for you. So basically advice for anyone who wants governmental or wants to be part or take part in governmental or philanthropy work, but are afraid to take that next step.
Yeah, that's a good question. Should I look there or should I look here?
You should look here, maybe.
I'm gonna look right
Yeah.
there. So I'm gonna quote someone else who often resonates and then kind of adapt it in my own way. Never doubt the power that a small group of passionate citizens can accomplish. In fact, in history, all good things have come from those groups. And so when you reflect upon getting involved in government, in philanthropy, taking on leadership, know that you are that change. You are that group of citizens, and you will be the path makers of the future. So don't hesitate to jump in, to take on those roles, and find the reason why your passions can be translated into civic engagement.
Love it. There you go. Shout out to Bilal. Had a serious face on too. I was a little scared for a second, man. No, but
He should go into like ads and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna say.
Commercials or
Yeah.
Thank you to our sponsors.
you definitely, no,
Yeah.
seriously, man. Honestly, you have a great voice for it.
Voiceovers.
For sure, man. You should
Read
look into
books.
that. Yeah, read those books. And kids, they listen to it. They first graders, man.
Fall asleep.
You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised, man.
You gotta be very entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
got you.
final words from everybody. Sada, what's your final words? And we'll go this way.
Thank you for coming on the show. And this is actually my second time meeting you as well.
Yeah.
So nice to see you.
A pleasure.
Abid?
Thank you for all you do for the community. It doesn't go unseen, and hopefully anything that you put your mind to goes successfully.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you, Bilal, for coming on. And we're glad to finally get you on this show. And honestly, this is one of those kind of get to know you kind of shows. Maybe in future reference, we can have you and someone else here, and we can dive into a important community topic. You know what I mean? That we can like talk about, because I know you're hands on. And so, future references don't. Hopefully, this is not the last time. We can definitely get you on. And
Well, he seems like he's so busy.
yeah, I know.
Yes.
That's why we got to make sure we book him.
Book in advance.
Judging off, we'll get him probably in December next time on next time he's free. No, but in all seriousness, man, inshallah, we'll get you on again. And like I said, we can now dive into something that that's community oriented, community based. So thank
Yeah.
you. What's your any final words, final comments, man?
I just want to thank you guys for having me. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your passions for cats and other environmental work. And Abir, thank you for showing
Anytime.
us the perspective of a mother, especially when it comes to education and supporting the next generation.
For sure.
And brother, I really appreciate you having me on here. I want to have more of these conversations. I got to tell you, me and Iman Ali Ahmed, we're always hyping you up. We're so impressed at what you're able to build here. So for you can record this clip. For all you out there, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Oz Media. We're out here. We're changing the world. We're changing Dearborn, one person at a time, one conversation at a time. So we'll see you in the next one.
There you go. Shout out to Bilal. Shout out to the sponsors: Qahwa House,
That was
Hanley
great.
International Academy, BC Adhesives, the Balkan House, and Juice Box and hamtramck. I can't. See. I just had to give a shout out to the sponsors, or else we should have definitely shut it down right there. But there you go. Shout out to Bilal. We appreciate him. And then Iman Ali Ahmed too. She is a great lady, and I know she's always doing awesome work. And we have to get together with her soon. We haven't seen her in a long time. So thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week Monday, not Tuesday. We'll be live on Monday because I think Tuesday is going to be day of Arafat, so we might be fasting. So Monday we'll be live next week, inshallah. We'll see you all next